All right, welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. Today, once again, is our monthly series called Learn with a Lender with Joel Schaub from Guaranteed Rate. Now, Joel is vice president of lending at Guaranteed Rate. He's been doing loans at a high level since 2003, and he's got to that level because of what he does specifically for agents, which is he gives back part of his commission to the agent's buyer on every transaction. So last year alone, Joel gave back $291,000 in closing costs to buyers who worked with him. And that puts Joel's volume in the top 1%, top 1/10 of 1% of all lenders nationwide. In fact, out of 400,000 loan officers in the United States, Joel is currently ranked number 137. Last year, he closed 619 transactions, his highest amount ever for 1 year, for $249 million. And already this year, Joel has closed 243 transactions for $98 million. 93% of that were purchases. Now, if you're looking for a loan officer, we cannot more highly recommend Joel. He's the very best we've ever worked with. Joel can be reached via email at joel@rate.com, Joel @rate.com, or you can call him directly at 773-654-2049. Let's say hello to the biggest Cubs fan I know, Joel Schaub.
DJ, thanks so much for having me on. And you're right. It's very fun when I hear the numbers, but none of that matters. I really like being on each and every month because it's the time where we can give back and have agents literally learn something. Because when you're in the business, you're so focused on buying and selling, but sometimes you don't have that mortgage side. So it's really good to come on and give back.
Yeah, and I think this is a great time to have a conversation about what's going on in the lending world, only because I've noticed this because well, you do as well. I hang out with a lot of realtors for different reasons, socially.
We try not to, but yes, they're everywhere, right?
You can't avoid them, no. But some of my closest friends now are in the industry, and I have noticed that there is a general malaise or a little bit of a sort of sadness around the fact that rates are not what they were at the 1 to 2 years ago, which of course they aren't. But I find that agents tend to like carry that residue around with them, like this is like horrible, awful news that is just making everybody's life so much more difficult. And I always think it's great to like reset and go back to our baseline expectation of what's going on. And because I just have to think this must influence the way that a lot of realtors interact with their clients. Like if the realtor thinks, oh my God, rates are 5% and above, then maybe they bring that energy to their client and maybe it doesn't really help the process.
It doesn't. It's all about mindset right now. So I'm throwing out the whole narrative that this is a bad problem to have, that rates are higher. And the agents that I work with and I teach and I coach, we've completely thrown that narrative out that the mainstream media tells you that, oh, this is a problem. All right. It's actually a blessing. All right. I've said this to you before. I mean, I like buying my shirts on sale and I like buying my shoes on sale. And now it's an opportunity finally to buy real estate on sale. And by that, I don't mean that we're going to see a big drop in values. Everybody's waiting. And I'll tell you now, if you're one of these agents telling buyers, wait for values to drop, you're wrong. I don't anticipate values are going to drop drastically, but what I do know and what we've already seen, DJ, is that it's a hell of a lot easier to get an offer accepted today than it was 6 months ago when there were 10 offers on the table.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's sort of the analogy of buying shirts on sale is such a great one, because I was thinking as you said that I really rather never buy something full price, right? Like anything in my life. I don't care if it's at the grocery store and it's a bag of carrots, or a home. I want something that appears to me psychologically. I want something to feel like I'm not paying full price. And of course, as we saw in the really extremely low, it was an aberration. It wasn't, I don't even think it should be in the same history book as traditional rates, because it was so unusual that it almost doesn't even deserve a chapter in history in a sense, because it really sort of is going to color people's expectations today. But you're right. Yeah, I could have gotten a much lower rate 2 years ago, but boy, I would have been competing with a lot more people, and I probably would be paid a lot more for that same property.
Yeah, why is it, DJ, that buyers they have this anticipation, right? Let's think of this. I want to buy something, but I only want to buy a few months ago when everybody was doing it. And now all of a sudden, when people aren't buying, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to buy either." You see this
Well, it's
mentality that's
this.
actually wrong, right?
Yeah, it's
I
this.
would
It's the
rather
same.
buy the home and get a deal on the price where I could refinance the debt down the line than be the big winner that bought a home 50 grand more than it was worth. So looking forward, if I'm an agent, I'm literally preaching this story. I'm
Yeah, it's a
teaching.
story that needs to continue to be reinforced, because you're absolutely right. I was in a former life, I was a financial advisor, and one of the I was not a stockbroker. I wasn't picking individual equities or bonds. That's just not what I did. I more managed somebody's net worth. But it is psychologically difficult to think, oh, I really need to buy when it's low and sell high. We all know that intellectually, but it is a difficult thing, because it's why a lot of people lost money in crypto, because as crypto exploded in value and price, people started to jump in at the end, which was the wrong time to get in. And of course, with crypto, anything can happen. But even in the traditional stock market, this idea of buying something when it's undervalued is hard psychologically. So I understand the hurdle that the agents and have to sort of jump over for their client, but it's a really important hurdle to jump over. Otherwise, you're going to be as upset as the client might be.
If I'm an agent right now, the number one thing that I would be doing is planning for the next 6 to 12 months. And what I mean by this is actionable steps to put out marketing and branding where you're not trying to get a sale today. I'll repeat this. I know how hard it is. We want sales today. But you want to actually be building your pipeline for 6 to 12 months, and think of this net that you could cast if you're letting buyers know that you're not desperate for the business today and that you are actually in their corner to help them when the time comes to find the right property. I would work with somebody like that a lot more than somebody that says today's the right day to buy. Now's the best time to
Right.
buy. And
Right.
guess what? When a buyer is working with you and they want to maybe buy in the next 6 to 12 months, a good majority of them are going to buy sooner. They really will, right? But by making a strategy and doing social media posts, videos, and actually talking about the future, and say when there's a little bit of snow on the ground, and I'm talking, we're here in the Midwest, so it's not that far away. When we get to November and December here in Chicago, we definitely get snow on the ground, and traditionally we do see a lot less inventory, and the properties that are on sale actually sell for less, right? So teaching and educating that there's an opportunity coming up, and if they buy sooner, that's great. But I would be doing videos once a week right now about, are you thinking about buying in the next 6 to 12 months? Reach out to me. And then you start building a database of people that are ready, willing, and able. Some of them will buy sooner, but you're teaching and you're educating about where the properties will be at 6 to 12 months from now. And there'll be a lot less offers than there were 6 to 12 months ago.
I had an experience yesterday. I just really want to quickly share, because it was such an unusual experience. I had to go see a dermatologist. It was a specialist down at Northwestern, and I hadn't ever been to this particular clinic before. And it was an older gentleman. He was in his 70s, and he actually took me into his office, which I always have seen that in movies where you sit across the table from the
Mhm.
doctor and you see their office. But I'd never actually realized I'd never actually been in a doctor's true office. And he sat down. He was an older man, I'm guessing in his 70s, and we were talking about this really like no big deal thing that I was there to see him about. And he spent 10 minutes with me, and he did. Most doctors, they're so skilled, and they know what you have at the moment you walk in, and they're like, I know what that is. It's this. We're going to treat it with this. But this guy didn't do that. He was like, I've been doing this 40 years, and I'm not totally sure what your situation is right now. And as I was explaining it to him, he was listening. He would pause. He would ask me a question. I would answer him, and he would take that information and pause and look up to the ceiling and go, oh, okay. And he would pause for about 10 seconds. And I realized I'm watching this guy think. And it was really, really it was really exciting in a way, and it also was really comforting. And I was like, this guy's thinking about me and trying to figure out the best solution for me. And he was clearly doing this sort of, intense sort of evaluation in his mind. And I was there to watch it. And then he called in. He goes, I got to call a colleague, and I want a colleague to get his opinion on this. And he calls in his son, who happened to work there as well. Son comes in, and they're talking about it. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had, because I thought, wow, this guy really cares. He's really thinking about this silly little problem. It's not a life or death thing. It's a totally no big deal thing, but he's really taking it seriously. And I just was like, God, I'm going to be with this guy for the rest of my life. Like, it was such a great experience. And I thought, boy, realtors could do this exact same thing. And the good ones do.
I like those awkward pauses.
Yeah.
People are afraid to have silence, but think of this. You're going to live in a home for 10 years and you're afraid of somebody being silent for 10 seconds to think about your situation. The people that actually know what they're doing take time to think about a situation, because they don't have a predetermined plan the moment that you reach out. Everything should be individualized. So as an agent, one of the reasons as a mortgage professional I was able to do 10 and $20 million a month was each scenario was different. I took my time and I listened. Whereas every other mortgage professional just talks and talks and talks, they don't give the buyer a chance to actually explain what they need. So if you can listen and hear what they need, you're really going to set yourself apart.
And I love this idea of creating content. Again, this is probably a time where the majority of our listeners and viewers have more time because the market's slowed. Of course, rates have increased. Inventory is still low. So there's a lot of just more free time maybe than you would have. And so, Joel, I think you're absolutely right. Such a great time to start creating educational content on social media. TikTok. If you're not a TikTok person, like, it's not going away, and it's
Mhm,
becoming more and more and more and more popular. And it doesn't mean you have to be a 22-year-old doing
mhm.
TikTok, but you want to speak to the next generation of home buyers, which this is the time, because other realtors are going to start utilizing other platforms, younger platforms, to get their message out. And the cool thing about things like TikTok and Instagram is you can cross post. So you can actually take the same content, continue to repurpose it, use it. And people are hungry for information. And I think this is a great opportunity to continue to tell people, like, I know this stuff. I know what this stuff is, and I can talk about it.
Remember this phrase, right? And this is true. When we buy a piece of real estate, I want everyone to remember that you can marry the home and date the rate. Okay. And start using that. And it's really true. As silly as it sounds, we're going to marry the home. We're going to find the house that we love. But we know damn well that when the rates come down, we're going to refinance that loan. Okay. And that's the great thing about mortgage financing in the United States. Okay. And you can always find a good mortgage professional that doesn't charge to do a refinance. I know that's big business for the banks and all that. But if you're doing the purchase mortgage, you should be able to get a mortgage professional that will waive the cost for a refinance. And at a minimum, maybe it costs $300 or $400 to do an appraisal again. But other than that, work with a mortgage team and somebody that'll absolutely help your clients buy the home, live in it, and when rates do come down, make sure that they go right back to that mortgage professional to lower the rate and pick a rate where you don't have to pay any fees. And maybe it's just a bit above the lowest rate in the market, but there's always opportunities to select an interest rate where you're not paying closing costs. And that's important.
That marry the home, date the rate is such a great expression. And it really is exactly the truth, because rates, of course, fluctuate. Things fluctuate. Home is pretty much considered a permanent, at least maybe you don't live there permanently, but it's a permanent structure. It feels like it isn't movable. But when you date somebody, it may work out, it might not, right? When you marry somebody, the idea is, of course, to be there for life. So obviously everyone understands this metaphor. I don't need to explain it, but I think it's such a great one because it really is exactly the truth, right? The rates come and go, people come and go, the rates come and go, and you're going to be able to make adjustments along the way via refinance. So that's almost enough, I think, just to explain, well, we're going to date the rate. We're not going to marry the rate. That should pretty much solve a lot of the conflict, I think, between realtors and their buyers at this point, is say, don't worry, we're just dating the rate. We're going to find you the perfect home. And that's the most important thing. And again, also, we hear rates are up, but Joel, you always say, and I love this, is you don't write a check with the rate on it, right, to the bank. You really just care about the total amount that's coming out of your bank account every month. And that's the most important thing. And those oftentimes aren't as exciting of news of headlines, right? It's not as exciting to say, well, the average person's, payment monthly went up $200, from when the rates were low, or whatever that number might be. That's not exciting news to say, oh, the rates jumped, 200 basis points in the last year, or whatever. That's exciting. That's, if it bleeds, it leads, for news. So we have to sort of bring it back to reality, saying, actually, we're just going to date the rate. And the rates aren't that high at all anyway. Like, they're still fine. And having that conversation, I think, is going to calm the buyers down. So I think you're right. And also just this idea of like, who's thinking about doing this over the next 6 to 12 months. That's really, really great. And realtors didn't really have the time to do that maybe so much in the last couple of years. They were in go mode, and they didn't have the time to go, wonder who's going to be buying in the next 6 to 12 months. They were just trying to get deals closed. So now's the time.
And DJ, in our market right now, rents are just going up just as fast, if not faster, than these mortgage rates. And so at my level, I'd say 80 or 90% of the clients that I work with are first-time home buyers that need the education. So agents lean on me to actually help them understand the difference between renting versus buying. And when we run just a 3 to 5 year analysis, it doesn't matter that mortgage rates are no longer in the threes or fours. The rent rate is 100%. When you're paying a mortgage, you're actually getting something back. When you're renting, every dollar goes out the window. And so just re-emphasizing for first-time home buyers, it's worth it to take a look and see what we can afford on a monthly basis that's similar or less than what you're paying in rent, and get ready for an opportunity in the next 6 months where I could put you on a list and show you different properties where you're not throwing the money out the way on rent.
Yeah, and just having the conversation too to renters about interest and deductions is a huge, wonderful surprise to anyone when they buy their first home. If they're not aware, it's a wonderful surprise come tax time. And this is something I didn't even know before I bought a property. I had no idea. I mean, I was in my, I was 30 years old, I think, and just didn't know anything about real estate and loans. And I got one, and then I was like, oh my God, I kind of wish somebody had told me all the cool tax benefits of owning. And it was up to me to figure it out. But this is an opportunity for people to educate renters about it. Now I'll leave you with this. My girlfriend, who or Aggie, she works at an apartment building downtown, like a luxury apartment building. And Joel was saying how rates for rental rates are going up, and that is true. I can attest to that. This is how crazy the rental market is, at least at my girlfriend's building here in Chicago. The rent prices change at least about once an hour, and they have 500 units there. The technology is so advanced for some of these management companies, is they don't just like, okay, that's the $2,000 a month apartment, and that's what it is. Oh no, it's evaluating every other property that in the area, trying to figure out how to be competitive, and they all compete with each other, and it actually ends up driving prices up. So they're constantly trying to squeeze as much as they can out of the renter, and now technology is doing it for them. So that's another thing to consider too, is the rental technology is getting so much better, where it's going to try to squeeze as much as they can. Now, not every landlord uses technology like that, but a lot of apartment buildings do, and it's really, really interesting. So rent prices change. They're going to want to extract as much income as they can, or as much revenue as they can out of the tenant. This is a great time to really educate somebody about some of the benefits of home ownership, and not just it feels good to own a home, but like there's some legitimate, tangible benefits around taxes and things that I bet a lot of renters just don't know.
All about education. And if you've been a longtime listener of Keeping It Real podcast, you've heard me come on and talk about the weekly update that I send out. And so many of you have emailed us and said, please put me on your list for that follow-up. And they use the information that I put in bite-sized pieces to disseminate on video or phone calls. And it just helps them, so that you don't need to be an expert in the mortgage market, but you got to have enough knowledge that you can talk to people about certain things in a way that's not so cumbersome and techy. So we've taken that list, and then I've also created another follow-up that people are asking for, which is they want to refer somebody over to us and they want the link so that they can get the $1,500 closing cost credit. So you can email me, and I'll give it away here. You can literally say, send me the lender introduction template. And it's my email. It's joel@rate.com. So JOEL at rate.com. And that's short for guaranteed rate. It'll come directly to me and you will get a reply from me, and there'll be a template. So if you have another buyer that's really wanting some education and wanting that first time home buyer benefit and somebody that's really going to look out for them, you can introduce me. We'll get them pre-approved, and then we waive all the fees. So I give a $1,500 credit back, and this will be one of the benefits of you listening to the Keeping It Real podcast.
Yeah, if I thank you for that. If I were an agent, if I was a listener right now, and I may be a little slower than I was in the last couple of years, or maybe I'm new to the business and I'm slow because I'm new. I don't have as much business. I would be signing up for Joel's newsletter. So just send Joel an email, joel@rate.com, ask to be put on the weekly newsletter. Also ask for his introduction template, like he mentioned. And Joel sends out the rate update and sort of the bite-sized piece of what agents need to know every week. And I would watch for that email. I would take several bits and pieces. I would use that as the content that I would post on social media. And so you don't even have to, like you were saying, you don't have to think or analyze or be an expert on what's going on in the lending world. Just take these bite-sized pieces. That's why Joel and his team make them. That's exactly the purpose, is so that you can take them to your client and look like you're the expert, as opposed to Joel being the only expert. Joel is an expert, but he also wants the agents to be experts too. So definitely sign up for that. Just email joel@rate.com, ask to be put on both of those, the list, and then also get the template. He'll send it out to you, and then there you go. Now you've got your social media content for the foreseeable future. Do it forever. I promise you, most lenders don't even do this. I've noticed very few lenders on social media even educate, other than Joel. I know you do too, but Joel's one of the few people that even does it in his field. So you can do it. It's not a crowded field, and your audience wants to learn.
And just remember this, okay? The sky isn't falling right now. You can be the bearer of good news, and you can let people
Yeah.
know that regardless of where the rates are at right now, it's still going to be better than renting, and it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for you as an agent to submit an offer on a property that is not over asking, okay? Now we're getting back to the point where you could come in under asking and not get laughed out of the room. And as we continue to see these rates at these elevated levels, because it could be this way for 2 to 3 years, we will have the opportunity, once the Fed gets it right, they're going to cut rates. So hearing it here first, once the Fed has inflation under control, they have to cut rates. So everybody on our floor that's on the trading in terms of mortgages, we're already predicting when, and there's various ideas as to when the Fed will cut rates, but it's not a straight shot up from here. When they continue to trend up for a while, once inflation is under control, the Fed has to cut rates. And that's going to be, the floodgates are going to open again. So in the meantime, let's be happy with where we're at. Let's help as many buyers as we can right now, and let's keep things positive.
Yeah, and just to sort of give one other quick idea, because Joel, you always you are the epitome of this. You live this. Now's a great time to give back, especially if you have more spare time, and to incorporate your client list or your prospect list. Do events around charitable acts. Maybe it's even just, hey, we want to go support this bar down the street that's struggling right now. So you can do some sort of event there. You can partner with somebody like Joel, of course, who would love to partner and do events with you. But now's the time to really, you could do a charitable thing. Now's the time to really do some good out in the world. And you have the extra time to do it. It'll generate goodwill with your clients. And, again, I just think that that's one of the best things you can do to develop a stronger relationship with your contacts, is do something together that creates good for the world. And, you're pretty much guaranteed to have that person as a client for life, I think.
I love that you say that too. And you have more time right now. You're not submitting 10 offers, right? And how many times do you lose? You submit an offer in the last year or two, and you're a great offer. And it reminds me of one of my favorite Weird Al songs, I Lost on Jeopardy. Right? It's the old My Love's in Jeopardy remake. And it's true. You put in a really great offer and somebody beats you. And now there's not as many offers going in. So you can help your clients. You have extra time, find ways to give back.
Well, Joel saying that, it's funny because we were talking about this ahead of time. I'm actually going to see Weird Al tomorrow night in Grand Rapids of all places. So I am excited. It's probably the 10th time I've seen
Number
him.
one fan here, guys. Number one fan. If you want to send something to DJ at the Keeping It Real
Send me
podcast,
something Weird Al related. Anyway, yeah, will not be the. I'm embarrassed to say how many times I've seen him, but it's now double digits. So excited. But anyway, it's a great point. And so anyway, don't despair. This is not the time to despair. There may be a time at some point in history that we should despair, but it isn't now. So don't worry. Shake off some of the stress from the last couple of years and realize that things are actually easier now in a way. So embrace the easier part of where we are today, and you won't get stuck in the harder part of today as well. So anyway, everyone. Yeah, everyone should sign up for Joel's newsletter. So just send an email to joel@rate.com. Let him know that you want to be on his newsletter, and there's your social media content. And here's your talking points for your clients right now that are thinking about what's going on in the news. This is how you readjust their expectation. All right, Joel, this is a great place to wrap up. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and excited to continue our relationship here on the podcast. If anyone out there is looking to partner with a lending professional, Joel's the very best I've ever worked with. So reach out to him, joel@rate.com. You can also call him. Joel, what's the best number for you and your team?
My direct line, 18 years, 773-744-1968. You'll get me directly. You just test me. We're definitely there to help.
Awesome. All right. Well, on behalf of our audience, Joel, thank you very much for continuing. You've been with us for years and years. We greatly appreciate it. And on behalf of Joel and myself, we wouldn't be able to do this without the listeners. So thank you for continuing to support and listen to our show and watch us. Support our sponsors, support Joel, support all of our guests that we have on the show. They're the reason that we have content for this show, and we're really grateful to Joel for doing that. So support Joel, support our sponsors, and continue to listen. And please tell a friend. Just think of one other realtor that could benefit from hearing this, who's maybe a little bummed out right now because things are slower. Send this episode to them. It will cheer them up, and it will reset them to a more positive headspace. So anyway, Joel, thank you again, and we will see everybody on the next episode.
Thank you.